Other things going down. Speaking of RPGs, did you see? You probably did. I'm learning a lot about MMO culture, and one of the things I learned was about attractive action MMO traps.
Yeah.
The Banshee is
Black
the
Desert's
latest.
a really good example of that, actually.
The Banshee is the latest game that has been teased out from China. It's another gorgeous looking super actiony trailer preview game that you know, it looks like you're looking at a like a fucking DMC style thing. The character swinging around a scythe in a Nero-esque way, and it turns out it's an MMO. And what I found out is that there's a number of games here where apparently they lead you in with a whole lot of what looks like single-player action combo, high-octane, you know, gameplay. And then it turns out it's a free-to-play absolute grind fest that steals your money, or at the very least, like, makes it ridiculously long or expensive to actually get anything worth your time.
Yeah, that's Black Desert in a nutshell. Black Desert has a really good example of this, because I was talking to some friends of mine. I was talking about this to my FF14 gang or whatever, and we all had the exact same experience with Black Desert, where we downloaded it and we're like, hey, we're gonna take a look at this. And we start it up, and then we see the interface of, like, the in-game interface, and we go, I am out of here. Just, I'm gone.
What tipped you off?
It's terrible. Some things are too big, some things are too small. There's things dead center in the middle of the screen. Like, everything's a fucking mess.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that, like, something about it indicated its grindiness.
No, you can just tell. You just immediately tell where the attention went. And yeah, these games tend to be awful.
So, something that people have shown me over time, and I've seen a bunch of footage of, is, like, you know, there's a character in Phantasy Star Online 2 that is just like a Virgil like clone. It just straight up, you know, Beowulf and Yamato and launchers and, you know, round trips and, like, literally just identical. But it's like, you're like, oh, okay, in an MMO context, you can do big actiony things, but it's like, it's not super impressive. It's like, it's all right, but it wasn't like, I wasn't like, oh my god, I wasn't blown away by it when I saw it. I thought it looked, I was like, that's pretty cool, but yeah, you know, I can see what you're doing. And but, like, there's definitely things about it that were like, yeah, that looks a little like a budget version, I guess, of what you're trying to copy there in some ways. The 3-second GIF of the Banshee that, like, I retweeted at some point last week was one that also seemed to look like, show me a HUD here, because this almost looks like it could be a fucking fake rendered video, you know? And then the trailer cuts to some other, like, in-gameplay moments, again, HUDless, but, like, the way that the mob is responding and the way characters are getting launched and tossed around and stuff is, like, a much higher quality approximation of what, I guess, that PSO2 comparison was going for, in a way. So pretty it's a Korean, yeah, my mistake. Okay, it was a Korean game. Pretty MMO thing, but yeah, I didn't know about, I knew about Black Desert, but I didn't know about any of the others that apparently have come and released
it's a whole thing,
have been ignored because of this massive, like, you know, grind trap problem.
So those games have a really good advantage to something like WoW or 14 or your more traditional or more successful MMO,
Mm-hmm.
and that's because they have the fancy action combat with all the particles. They demo really well.
I
They
see.
demo real good.
Okay.
Because you throw a demo out and you go, you're going to go on a quest, and they make good trailers, and then you go to play them, and you play the combat, and the combat's not as deep as you thought it was, and the rest of the game sucks.
Project Barbecue. Yes, that was another one. Okay. Yeah. No, it's not as deep as you thought it was. Now, I guess my question is, like, when you do eventually spend the time to get to what the demo was showing you, does it become fun then? You know?
I have not had fun with any of these, but I have not given them much of my time. I already have my MMO of choice, and it's a good one, and I like it.
Like, if a GM could just show up and speed level you up to unlock all of your combat options, would it be as cool as the demos look, you know? Like, would you be having
I have no
something
idea.
worth looking at? Because, yeah, that's what's kind of, like, curious to me. It's like, hey, all this rad shit you see, it takes you 1,000,000 years to get it. Or a lot of money, and it's like, oh, that sucks.
Or, yeah, that stuff's cool, but all the other stuff, like, you know, MMOs are really complicated. Like, encounter design is bad, or the enemies don't support the combat system that you have, right? Or, you know, what have you. There's a reason why the most successful MMOs tend to have, like, simple hotbar-based combat, is because you can build a lot around them. I mean, that's my opinion, obviously, but
yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, you know, every time I take notice of something like this, it's likely because it's like, here's something that, like, is not really purely an MMO. It's another genre of some kind that's working in with or that's like working in MMO elements of some kind. Like, Warframe is a pretty cool example of, like, something that it works in MMO aspects into something that moment to moment isn't necessarily an MMO.
Yeah, if you wanted to play a proper action MMO, I would point you at Phantasy Star, and I would say that is the only place to go.
That's the best you're getting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. And at a glance, I mean, I was like, "Yep, Phantasy Star." I'm like, I thought it was all right. You know, I wasn't like going holy shit over the combos and combat that I saw.
There's somebody in the chat who points out you do beautifully animated things in Black Desert that don't actually matter because you're fighting a sponge and their attacks don't matter. Which that kind of sums it up. It's like if you have, like, this cool flashy combat system, but you're fighting, like, Dynasty Warriors trash exclusively, you know, like.
Well, I hope that the single player games we've seen trailers for are not going to suffer from any of those problems.
I think those have a much better shot.
Yeah, there's I don't know what to call it, but there's just this new wave of like new Asian action games that are just on the horizon, and, like, there's like maybe 10 of them at this point that are all, like, super duper pretty and super fast paced.
One of them will come out.
I mean, I have the most faith in probably Lost Soul Aside, simply because of its origins being, like, one dude on his own, regardless of, like, funding or a studio behind him, you know? Like, you know, that one was a passion project from a guy that was putting out footage of it, like, years ago, as opposed to, let's say, like a studio that was put together of a number of graduates from a certain school for the specific goal of, like, entering this market and you know, challenging, I don't know, whatever, FF or something like that, you know? and I expect them all to have a complete nonsense sequence of story beats that just don't make sense.
Yep.
What the fuck was it? So I got linked to a
Excuse me.
there was a new anime as well that super high octane, again, like I think it's like a Chinese mythology thing that has like Trigger-esque battles and at some points, like ridiculous explosive particle things and whatnot. It was wild. It was God, I forget the name of it, but I think Min sent me a link to it and I checked it out, and it was like one of these things where you're just like, okay, well, the pretty fights are pretty, these characters are saying things, and like the story couldn't be any less of a thing, you know, but here for the action.
Honeypots.
Yeah, definitely. I don't remember the name, unfortunately. It was not a game. It was an anime. It was a YouTube video, where it was
God of High School.
Not God of High School. No.
Okay. I tried.
Like there were literal like Sasuke versus Naruto clashes going down at some point in it. Whatever. Anyway, Fog Hill of the Five Elements. That's the one. Fog Hill of the Five Elements. Yep.
Oh, I think I saw some of that.
Just looking through it, and like the most non-fucking story there's ever been, followed by explosive, you know, high frame Sakuga.